At 3:14 a.m. on June 21, 1970, a silent telex confirmed the impossible. That telex, sent from Philadelphia, sealed the fate of the Penn Central Transportation Company, once America's sixth-largest corporation. It wasn't just a railroad filing for bankruptcy. It was a tremor that would shake the foundations of American industry and redefine the government's role in private enterprise. To understand the magnitude of Penn Central's collapse, we must first appreciate its sheer scale. Formed in 1968, it was the product of a forced merger between two legendary rivals, the Pennsylvania Railroad and the New York Central Railroad. The Pennsylvania Railroad, known as the Standard Railroad of the world, was an engineering marvel, boasting iconic stations like New York's original Penn Station. The New York Central, under Cornelius Vanderbilt, pioneered efficient routes, connecting the bustling Midwest to the eastern seaboard. Individually, they were titans. Together, they were meant to be an unstoppable force, a dominant superpower spanning 20,000 miles of track across 16 states and 2 Canadian provinces. It was envisioned as a solution to growing financial troubles, a merger for survival. Yet, from its very inception, the Penn Central merger was plagued by inherent problems. The two companies, despite their shared industry, operated with fundamentally different corporate cultures and incompatible systems. The Pennsylvania, conservative and bureaucratic, favored a decentralized management structure. The New York Central, by contrast, was more centrally managed, leaner, and aggressive. Merging them was like trying to stitch together two entirely different organisms. Technologically, the integration was a nightmare. Their computer systems couldn't communicate. Track layouts were different. Even their freight car numbering systems were incompatible, leading to massive logistical chaos and misplaced cargo. This operational discord was further exacerbated by a rapidly changing economic landscape. The rise of interstate trucking and commercial aviation had chipped away at the railroad's dominance in freight and passenger transport. Adding to the woes was a suffocating regulatory environment. The Interstate Commerce Commission, or ICE, controlled everything from rates to mergers, often preventing railroads from adapting to market realities or shedding unprofitable lines. Instead of investing in infrastructure, Penn Central's management, under Stuart T. Saunders and Alfred E. Perlman, pursued short-sighted strategies. They began diversifying into non-railroad assets, often at inflated prices, hoping to offset rail losses. They bought Executive Jet Aviation, a private jet charter company, and a string of hotels and resorts. These ventures, far removed from their core competency, only drained capital and management attention, failing to generate significant returns. The financial picture grew increasingly grim. Penn Central was hemorrhaging cash, losing millions each day. Maintenance suffered drastically. Tracks deteriorated, leading to slow orders, derailments, and further delays. The once proud passenger service became a nightmare. Trains were consistently late, dirty, and unreliable. Public confidence plummeted, and with it, what little revenue was left from passenger fares. As bankruptcy loomed, the company scrambled for government aid. They argued that their collapse would paralyze the Northeast's economy, disrupting essential freight and commuter services. This was, in essence, an early too-big-to-fail argument. The Nixon administration, initially hesitant, eventually provided loan guarantees. But it was too little, too late. The underlying problems of operational dysfunction, financial mismanagement, and an outdated business model were simply too deep-seated. On June 21, 1970, Penn Central, with debts exceeding $3 billion, a staggering sum for its time, filed for Chapter 77 bankruptcy. It remains the largest corporate bankruptcy in U.S. history up to that point, dwarfing all previous failures. The immediate impact was devastating. Thousands of employees faced uncertainty. Commuter services were disrupted. The stock market reacted with shock, fearing a domino effect across other struggling industries. But the Penn Central bankruptcy also triggered a profound reevaluation of how the U.S. government viewed its role in distressed private corporations. It highlighted the critical need for an essential service like rail to be maintained. This ultimately led to the creation of Amtrak in 1971. A federally subsidized corporation to take over passenger rail services, and later, Conrail in 1976, which consolidated and revitalized freight lines from Penn Central and other bankrupt railroads. The story of Penn Central is more than just a railroad's collapse. It's a cautionary tale about the perils of ill-conceived mergers, the dangers of neglecting core business for speculative ventures, and the suffocating grip of outdated regulation. It demonstrated that even giants, if managed poorly and subjected to adverse market forces, can fall spectacularly. And it set a precedent for government intervention when a private entity's failure poses a systemic risk. The legacy of Penn Central continues to resonate. Its failure laid bare the vulnerabilities of an entire industry and forced a reckoning that reshaped American transportation for decades to come. It was a painful, expensive lesson, but one that ultimately paved the way for a more resilient rail system. Explore how other corporate behemoths crumbled and what those lessons teach us today by watching our next deep dive.